Till next time, guys, I love you all. Adios. Hello? Hey, babe. Yeah, I can meet you there. Alright, I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Alright, love you too. Bye.
Fuck you!
1991 wasn't a very good year for horror. Up to this point in the Mount Rushmore of horror, for the most part, everything was silent. Jason didn't have a movie coming out, Ghostface wasn't around yet, Leatherface didn't have one coming out, Hellraiser didn't have one coming out, so the only credible opponent of the year for Child's Play 3 was really Freddy's Dead. And goddamn, don't get me started on that shit. In my opinion, the highlight of 1991 was The Silence of the Lambs. And yes, I do myself consider that a horror movie. Right after Child's Play 2, the studio forced Don Mancini to go ahead and write a screenplay for another sequel. And I cannot believe that this movie was written, actors were casted, they went through production, post-production, and released all in less than a year. I think one of the biggest sins in horror movies is rushing a sequel. More times than not, they don't turn out very successful. Very popular film critic sites like Rotten Tomatoes have this listed as the worst Child's Play movie ever made. Now, I don't personally agree with that, but it is for me on the lower tier. Growing up, Child's Play 3 was the only entry I had on DVD of the franchise. But nonetheless, the studio would make money. It would make about $7 million in profit. And this would mark the first time in the franchise that Alex Vincent does not reprise his role as Andy Barclay. Growing up as a child, I really couldn't tell the difference. Appearance-wise, it's not that far off, and the acting in the film, I really don't mind it. Upon my research, one really cool fact that I found out was that Don Mancini considering casting Jonathan Brandis. You probably recognize Jonathan as Bill Denbrough from the 1990 series from It. And originally Don wanted the movie plot to be about multiple Chuckies, which would later be recycled in Cult of Chucky. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not a movie review. This film spawned 8 kills in total. And if you guys are ready, let's get down to these kills. Coming in on my golden number 1 is Chucky's death at the very end of the film. One thing about this franchise up to this point is they know how to do an ending. I think it's pretty obvious the best part of this film is the ending. With Chucky is chasing Andy and Kristen in that carnival ride park. I think the carnival alone creates this really creepy aesthetic that Chucky could use to his advantage, and the scene does get very intense. By the end of the film, Chucky has already been shot, his arms have been ripped off, and he cuts his hand off and then throws him to that fan. Now this fan scene is phenomenal. The cinematics of this as Chuck is falling down in slow motion, Brad Dourif with his Chucky screams, is just out of this world. And then you get the flashing lights from the carnival setting, and you can see in Chucky's eyes the fear he's about to endure because he's going to his impending death, and then he is just sliced the fuck up by that fan. Intense moment, it is shot great, best part of the movie hands down, and also the best kill. Coming in at my number 2 is Harold Whitehurst. Now I debated on almost putting him at number 1. Harold's death is up there for me above most of the rest because of the sheer fact on how heroic it is. One thing about Harold's character you gotta realize is that he knew about Chucky beforehand. He witnessed Chucky when Sergeant Botnick got murdered. He then kind of went into a recluse kind of state, but at the end of the day he saw the danger. He saw the grenade being pumped out. Fuck! And he did what many men would do and sacrifice himself for his comrades. It's about more than the death. Just the fact that he knew the truth. And yes, he did kind of cowered behind for a while in the film, but when it came time to step up, he did his shit. He did his thing. And him going out like a G puts him at number 2 on my list. Coming in at my number 3, the funniest death of this film is Colonel Cochran. There's a very fine line in horror in which you have to do comedic relief in movies. It doesn't have to be there. Does it have to be there sometimes? Absolutely. But you're playing a dangerous game. But Colonel Cochran's death in this, when I saw it for the first time because I used to have this as a kid on DVD, I legit used to replay this over and over because it was just fucking funny. But not a comedy movie kind of funny either. Seeing Chucky so fucking angry and so fucking amped up, going around that corner with his knife, screaming.
Gotta be fucking kidding me.
This movie is on a lower tier for me, but this is definitely a highlight of the entire franchise, is this death. And plus the performance alone of him actually going through that fucking glass table. The stuntman on this, I have to give props. Because he just didn't fling himself, he legit scooted back and then slowly went into that fucking glass. Now whether that's real glass or plexiglass is irrelevant. It looks good, it looks brutal. The cinematics of this kill is phenomenal. Like him holding his chest and then the dead shot where he's sweating really brings a sense of realism into it. And again, it's very funny but not in a comedic way. And Chucky's point of view is like, God damn, I can't catch a fucking break. Coming in at my number 4 is the Garbage Man.
Garbage day!
Because this Garbage Man was just your average Joe, doing his job throughout the day. He woke up that morning just like everybody else. And was like, you know what? I'm gonna empty this fucking trash today. Now, is it wise to go in there? No, it's not. But he did it for the better good, right? Because he was trying to be a good Samaritan about the situation. Little did he know he was being tricked. Now, if I was put in this man's shoes, I would be fucking petrified shitting my pants. Because being in there, knowing what could go wrong already, being fucking squished and then shredded apart by the compactor, him being in there trying to find whoever the fuck he thinks in there, and then just that sudden moment of your stomach fucking dropping and your heart dropping in your stomach because you see the wall coming in. You see that drum with spikes, knowing you're about to be a fucking pancake or slices of bacon. And then you top that all off with his arm getting amputated, and then the whole army school having to witness that. Coming in at my number 5 is Chris Sullivan. A pretty cool blast from the past from Child's Play 2. Chris Sullivan, if you don't know, is one of those head honchos at the company that makes the good guy dolls. Having Sullivan back in this film is the only thing that really bridges the feel between Child's Play 2 and Child's Play 3. That's how different these films feel to me. Especially now that Andy's a lot older. It kind of makes you wonder of where the status of the good guy doll company is at this point in the movie. Especially after the ending of Child's Play 2 with the whole factory scene, right? And I must say, the opening of Child's Play 3 is one of the best openings in the franchise. I love it. For those who have not watched the Child's Play 2 kill ranking, I mentioned and included a clip of the alternate ending of the TV version in which the opening of this film replicated. But Sullivan is just labeled as one of those rich gurus who has nothing better to do in his office during his spare time but to take phone calls and fucking play golf. The kill itself is pretty basic. The only thing that stands out to me about his death is just the sheer amount of anger and the vocal performance of Brad Dourif as Chucky when he's screaming in this moment makes it very intense. And that's not to discredit the actor playing Sullivan either. Sullivan really sold the death angle on this. He looks like he's being fucking strangled with a yo-yo. It's believable. Coming in at my number 6 is Cadet Shelton's death. Now this one is swift, but I like to incorporate factors from the whole movie about this. If you've seen the movie, you know that Shelton gave Andy the hardest fucking time. Being the biggest fucking dick ever. Are you fucking crazy, you fucking psycho? But Chucky is just an absolute fucking savage for swapping out those paintball rounds with live ammunition. By the time Shelton got shot and he saw Chucky, he came to the fucking realization like, oh my god, this is real. But the moment he did that, boom, he got shot. It was game over. And it looks like he got shot directly in the fucking heart. So I know he died pretty fucking soon after this. Coming in at number 7 is Sergeant Botnick's death. Sergeant Botnick in this movie is a weird fucking character. I can't say whether I like his character or I dislike his character. But one thing for sure, he's fucking weird. It seems like Botnick really gets off on his job and his position of authority and power that he doesn't have. Him betraying a tough man sergeant was pretty entertaining, but his death in this film is really lackluster to me. The scene itself to me is just awkward. After giving Andy a haircut and all these other men, you find yourself alone in this room with this doll. And you put the doll in the chair and you're looking around like, oh my god, does anybody see me? I'm about to give this doll a haircut. I really don't feel like this kill is needed. And honestly, there's not much to say about this. He gets the old timey razor to the throat and he's dead. I think the biggest highlight of this is actually the aftermath, where Harold comes in and actually finds him. And he catches Chucky in the act. Every kill in a horror movie doesn't have to be extravagant. You can have simple kills. Botnick's death to me is just unnecessary. I feel like it doesn't contribute to the film whatsoever. The way it's played out is just kind of like, eh. Other than the fact that Harold came in and found him, which adds another element to the plot. But even then, you can take this element away, and Harold's death and status in my book would still be at number 2. He would still probably work up the courage to see that grenade and jump on it and sacrifice himself for his comrades. Me personally, I feel like it wasn't needed. Coming in at number 8, my least favorite kill of this film is the unnamed security guard. At this point in the film, Andy and Kristen's running. They're trying to find help. This scene was shot in this film just to show that Chucky was doing his maniacal thing. There's always this murdered dead body that's found, right? And yes, he had a little bit of screen time beforehand, but at the end of the day, who gives a fuck? That's gonna wrap this video up, guys. Thank you so much for taking part of your day to kick it with me. I can't wait to see you in the next one with Bride of Chucky, the kill ranking.